The metallic dome of the Grand Hall shimmered beneath the artificial sunlight of Vora 9. Hundreds of cadets filled the tiers, scaled, feathered, chitin-plated, all whispering in their native frequencies. The hum of translation implants created an undercurrent like static. At the center platform, surrounded by 12 shimmering banners of the Galactic Alliance, stood a single human, Cadet Mira Holt. Her posture was relaxed, hands behind her back, expression unreadable. The others stood at attention, yet she remained still, eyes half-lidded as if watching a storm build behind glass. Instructor Zaltor's talons clicked against the metal as he approached. His reptilian frame was tall and severe, scales polished to a green-bronze sheen. He looked down at her as one might study an unpredictable experiment. "Cadet Holt," his voice rasped through the amplifier, "you were ordered to kneel during the Anthem of Unity. You refused. Explain yourself." Mira raised her gaze slightly. "I was listening," she said. Listening. His nostrils flared. "To what?" "To the silence between the verses," she replied. "It said more than the anthem did." Ripples of laughter spread through the ranks. A feathered Alaran cadet clicked its beak in amusement. "Humans, always trying to sound mysterious." Zaltor's scales rippled darker. "The anthem represents the peace that ended millennia of bloodshed. Every sentient kneels to honor it." "I'm human," Mira said calmly. "We don't kneel for peace. We stand to protect it." The laughter stilled. Even the translator hum faltered. Zaltor's crest stiffened in irritation. "Your species clings to barbaric pride. You were invited here to learn civilization, not to preach Deathworld arrogance." Her eyes met his, gray, cold, steady. "Then perhaps civilization should stop confusing restraint with weakness?" the crowd murmured. A few cadets exchanged uneasy glances. They had mocked her before, mocked the slow human reactions, the fragile bones, the small stature, but none could hold that gaze. Zaltor's voice sharpened. "Discipline is not a discussion. Guards, remove the cadet." 2 armored Catharian enforcers stepped forward. Mira didn't resist. As they seized her arms, she merely exhaled. The faint hiss of her breath echoed like pressure escaping a sealed chamber. Zaltor turned to address the hall. "Let this be your lesson. Deathworlders are dangerous because they refuse control. They worship defiance and chaos. That is why Earth was quarantined for centuries." Mira's voice cut through him, soft even, yet heavy enough to still every whisper. "Silence," she said, "is the last sound before a storm." Zaltor froze. His tongue flicked involuntarily. "What did you say?" But she didn't answer. Her eyes drifted toward the massive view window behind him, where Vora 9's swirling gas clouds formed pale blue storms. The guards tightened their grip, and she let them drag her away. Her boots scraped against the polished floor, the sound steady, deliberate, like a clock marking the seconds before something inevitable. The doors hissed closed behind her. For several moments, no one moved. Then Zaltor cleared his throat. "Resume training schedules. The matter is concluded," but it wasn't. In the corridor, the temperature dropped. The Academy's central heating always faltered this deep in the complex. Sector 7A was old, built before the newer wings. Fluorescent panels buzzed overhead, casting thin shadows along the walls. The guards said nothing. They were trained not to engage detainees. Still, one of them, broad-shouldered, heavy-jawed, grunted as they passed through an intersection. "Never seen one so calm," he muttered to his partner. The other guard laughed. "They say humans breathe ammonia on their homeworld." "Not true," Mira said quietly. The guard startled. Neither had realized she'd been listening. "Then what makes it a death world?" the first asked mockingly. She tilted her head, eyes tracing the flicker of lights above. "Everything tries to kill you. The ground, the air, the sky. You adapt, or you don't." They laughed again, but it sounded thinner this time. The corridor's light dimmed briefly, just long enough to make them glance upward. "Keep walking," one snapped. In the Hall of Oversight, Zaltor watched from a balcony as cadets dispersed. His superior officer, a silvery-skinned Avanik named Thayer Sol, approached. "You intend to report this?" he asked. Zaltor's tail twitched. Of course. Deathworlders require strict containment. Their defiance spreads like contagion. Containment, Thersol murmured, staring toward the sealed doors where Mira had been taken. Or provocation? She broke discipline. She made you speak in anger, Thersol corrected. That's different, Zaltor didn't reply. His jaw tightened, scales scraping softly against each other. Mira's cell was narrow, carved into the deeper levels of the academy, a relic from older times when physical confinement was still used. The walls were seamless alloy. Light bled from recessed lines along the ceiling. The guards shoved her inside and deactivated the field. Sit tight, Deathworlder, one sneered. Maybe you'll dream of your toxic sky? Mira glanced back once. Maybe you'll learn what makes it beautiful. The door sealed with a pneumatic hiss. She stood for a long moment, letting the silence settle. Her wrists bore faint red lines from the restraints, but she ignored them, focusing on the soft hum of power conduits behind the walls. Every structure had a rhythm. Every system breathed. Even metal had a pulse if you listened closely enough. She sat cross-legged on the floor and closed her eyes. Elsewhere, Zaltor began writing his report. His words were clipped, methodical. Cadet Mira Holt displayed insubordination during the Anthem of Unity, recommended corrective isolation. No further incident anticipated. He hesitated over that last line, then left it. When he looked up, the storm beyond the viewing window was darker than before, lightning threading across Vora 9's clouds like veins of blue fire. Inside the cell, the lights flickered once. Mira's eyes opened slowly. A faint tremor passed through the floor, almost imperceptible. The hum of the ventilation system deepened, shifting half a tone lower. The walls vibrated like something alive. She exhaled again, steady, deliberate. Her mother's words came back from years ago on a crumbling Earth outpost. If they fear you, don't shout, whisper. The guards outside leaned against the wall, bored. Creepy, isn't it? One said. How quiet they are, his partner shrugged. Let her sit. Nothing ever happens down here. From behind the door came a single rhythmic sound. Tap, 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 like fingers brushing metal. The first guard frowned. She's doing something. Leave it. Probably human meditation. The tapping stopped. Silence thickened, a tangible thing. Then the lights above them dimmed. The first guard looked up. Power fluctuation? The second shrugged. Old wiring. A hum filled the hall, low, resonant, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Then, just as suddenly, the lights returned to full brightness. They exhaled in relief. Inside the cell, Mira sat unmoving, her eyes reflecting faint golden light. Back in the grand hall, Zaltor dismissed the final group of cadets. The echo of her last words still lingered in his mind. Silence is the last sound before a storm. He looked again through the massive viewport. Below, Vora 9's storm band swirled faster, lightning flashing in patterns that almost looked like veins, or warnings. He told himself it was coincidence. Yet when he turned off the chamber lights and stepped away, his own shadow lingered half a second too long against the floor, and in that half second, it moved before he did. The academy woke before dawn to alarms echoing through the metallic corridors. Red emergency lights pulsed along the ceilings, flashing across the faces of confused cadets stumbling from their bunks. Automated drones zipped through the air, scanning, recording, searching for anomalies. In the detention wing, the sealed doors of Mira Holt's cell stood untouched, but the guards assigned to her were gone. Only their armor remained, collapsed in empty heaps beside the doorway. No blood, no remains. Just uniforms and scorched outlines burned into the alloy floor like sun-frozen shadows. A trembling maintenance droid hovered nearby, its optical sensor flickering. Time of anomaly, it reported to the approaching officers. 0213 standard. Zaltor arrived moments later, cloak flaring as he strode down the corridor. His claws clicked sharply with every step. Behind him trailed Lieutenant Karen of the station security, a crystalline being whose translucent body shimmered under the emergency glow. Report, Zaltor ordered. Karen gestured toward the scene. No breach detected. Internal systems show no energy discharge, no intrusion. The door was never opened. The only biological presence inside is the human cadet. Zaltor's eyes narrowed. Then where are my guards? Karen hesitated, gaze shifting to the burned silhouettes. That is what we are attempting to understand. Zaltor turned to the console, keying in commands. The surveillance footage flickered to life on the holo display. It showed the two guards standing watch. One yawned. The other muttered something, his words muffled. Then, at 0213, static overtook the screen. The lights dimmed, the video warped, and for half a second, a faint golden shimmer appeared behind the guards before the feed went black. Zaltor replayed it 3 times. Each time the same moment, just before failure, a pulse of light, like something alive breathing through metal. Retrieve the cadet, he said finally. Karen hesitated. Sir, protocol demands a containment team. I said retrieve her, Zaltor snapped. If she is responsible, I want to see how. The door hissed open under his override code. Inside, Mira sat cross-legged on the floor, exactly as before. Her expression was calm, her gaze steady. The dim light of the cell reflected faintly in her eyes, as though the metal itself glowed within them. You're awake, Zaltor said. I don't sleep easily, she replied. He studied her face. You're alone. Yet 2 trained guards vanished outside this room. Explain. Mira tilted her head slightly. Vanished? He gestured to the empty armor. You find that amusing? No. Her voice was soft but precise. I find it predictable. Zaltor's jaw tightened. You think I'm a fool? I think you've forgotten what you're dealing with. Karen shifted uneasily behind him, crystalline plates resonating faintly. Instructor, they murmured. The floor readings are abnormal. There's an energy signature, low frequency oscillating. Zaltor ignored them. You threaten me with riddles, human. Tell me what happened here. Mira looked up, eyes glinting gold under the dim light. You ordered men to drag me through corridors lined with plasma conduits. You mocked a world you never survived. You brought fear into a closed room. Her voice remained calm, measured. And fear, she said, reflects. The silence that followed was heavy. Even Karen's crystal tone dimmed to stillness. Zaltor scoffed. Cryptic nonsense. You expect me to believe fear vaporized my men? Mira didn't answer. She stood slowly, every movement deliberate, like gravity itself bowed around her. You've studied my biology, she said. Reflex tests. Neural mapping. You thought Earth bred violence. You were wrong. It bred restraint, Zaltor's tail lashed. Enough. Fear is energy, she continued softly. Uncontrolled, it burns. Directed, it transforms. Karen swallowed hard, an odd gesture for a crystalline species. Instructor, they whispered, she's emitting resonance, frequencies aligning with the structural power grid. Zaltor stepped back instinctively. Deactivate the room dampeners. Karen hesitated. That could... Now! The lights flickered as the dampeners disengaged. The air seemed to thicken. A low vibration spread through the walls, matching Mira's pulse. The burn marks outside shimmered faintly, as if responding. Do you feel it? She asked quietly. What is this? Zaltor demanded. Adaptation, she said. The same thing that made us survive our planet. The lights flared white, then steadied. Mira exhaled. The vibration stopped. When the sensors cleared, the readings returned to normal. Zaltor's chest rose and fell sharply. You're dangerous. No, she said. You are. You created this. He turned to Karen. Restrain her. Full stasis field. Karen hesitated but obeyed. A shimmering barrier formed around Mira, locking her in a column of light. She didn't struggle. Her calm unnerved them more than any defiance could. You think this makes you safe? She asked. Zaltor forced confidence into his tone. It makes you contained. Her eyes held his for a long moment. Containment isn't safety. It's ignorance with better lighting. Hours later, the academy buzzed with speculation. Rumors spread like static across the dorms. The Deathworld Girl had consumed her guards. Some claimed she controlled shadows. Others swore she whispered to the station's core. Zaltor stood before the council communication relay, submitting his report. He tried to frame the facts clinically, stripping emotion from the data. Yet every line of text seemed heavier than the one before. Incident, containment breach suspected. 2 casualties unconfirmed. Human cadet displays anomalous resonance properties inconsistent with standard biology. He stopped writing, staring at his reflection in the display. The faint distortion of the glass made his eyes look hollow. Behind him, Karen entered silently. "Sir, the medical wing examined the armor fragments. No organic residue, no DNA traces. It's as if the guard's molecular structures folded inward, meaning they're gone, but their mass signature remains, like shadows with weight." Zaltor turned slowly. "You think the human did that?" Karen's crystalline form pulsed faintly. Whatever happened, it responded to her presence. When she calmed, it stopped. He clenched his jaw. "You sound afraid." "I'm resonating with the station," Karen said. "And the station is afraid." Back in her cell, Mira stared at the glowing barrier surrounding her. The hum of the stasis field blended with her heartbeat. She'd learned long ago to listen to patterns. Machines breathed differently when they were afraid. Through the transparent wall, she could see her reflection faintly distorted. But something was missing. Her shadow didn't follow. She studied the absence, tilting her head slightly. "So that's where they went," she murmured. The overhead lights dimmed once more, just enough to turn the room into a wash of silver gray. From the corridor, muffled voices, Zaltor's among them. "Maintain containment until council arrival. Double the guard." She smiled faintly. "You still think this is about me?" Then she closed her eyes and slowed her breathing. The hum of the barrier changed pitch, syncing subtly with her pulse. The faint outlines burned into the corridor, flickered as though responding from a distance. At 500 hours, the Academy's power grid experienced a brief fluctuation. Nothing catastrophic, just a half-second blackout. When lights returned, the corridors looked the same. Almost. The scorched shadows on the floor were gone. Zaltor stood in the hall, staring at the smooth metal. "Where are they?" he whispered. Karen scanned the surface. Residual radiation still present, but... A sound interrupted them, a soft, deliberate knock from inside the sealed cell. Both turned. Mira's voice came through the intercom, calm as before. "Permission to return to class, instructor." Zaltor froze. His throat tightened. "How do you know what happened here?" Her tone remained light, almost polite. "Because the walls remember, and shadows never leave until they're done watching." Static burst through the comms, cutting her voice off. Karen shuddered. "Sir, her shadow's back." Zaltor turned toward the viewing screen. Inside the stasis field, Mira sat motionless. Yet along the wall behind her, a single silhouette stretched upward. Too tall, too sharp, its edges flickering like smoke caught in light. For the first time since arriving on Vora 9, Instructor Zaltor stepped backward. He didn't know what scared him more, the missing shadows or the fact that the human still hadn't moved at all. The next morning, the Academy floated in uneasy silence. From orbit, Vora 9 storms glowed pale blue, reflecting off the station's hull like distant lightning trapped beneath glass. Inside, corridors were hushed. Cadets whispered in corners, speaking in half-sentences as though sound itself had grown. Dangerous. The news had spread faster than any official statement. The Deathworld Girl had taken their shadows. Zaltor walked through the command wing, flanked by officers. His movements were rigid, too measured to hide the unease beneath. Every reflective surface seemed to shimmer slightly as if watching him. The lighting crews claimed it was power interference from the previous night, but he didn't believe in coincidence anymore. The council envoys had arrived. 3 of them, each representing one of the core worlds. Their robes carried faint luminescence. Their expressions were calm in that diplomatic way that disguised disgust. They gathered in the central tribunal hall, the place once used for war crime hearings. Mira was brought in under full escort, 6 guards, energy dampeners, and an atmospheric null field. She walked between them silently, barefoot, her expression still unreadable. The restraints glowed faintly against her skin but didn't touch her spirit. Zaltor stood beside the council's lead envoy, a pale being named Lura Sen. "She has been cooperative," Zaltor said. His voice betrayed the strain. "But the evidence speaks for itself." 2 guards vanished. Our power grid fluctuated across the station. "This cannot be chance." Lura Sen's gaze stayed fixed on Mira. "And yet she is here, unharmed, unarmed." "That," Zaltor said tightly, "is what worries me." The tribunal lights dimmed to focus on the center platform. Mira lifted her head slightly, meeting the envoy's eyes. "Cadet Mira Holt," Lura Sen began. "You stand accused of hostile resonance manipulation, destruction of sentient matter, and interference with alliance systems. Do you understand these charges?" "I understand the words," Mira said. "Not the logic. Then allow us to clarify." Lura Sen's tone hardened. 2 of your escorts cease to exist. Sensors show energy inversions matching your biological signature. "Explain this." Mira's eyes flickered faintly with gold light. "What happened was a mirror. You sent hostility into a closed room. It reflected back. That's all." Zaltor stepped forward. "You speak in riddles again, human." "Do you deny using some weapon, some forbidden device?" "I didn't need one," she said. "You gave me all the energy I required, the energy of fear." Murmurs rippled through the room. The translation systems crackled as the word fear passed between languages that barely had a term for it. Lura Sen frowned. "Fear cannot destroy matter." "On Earth," Mira replied, "it destroys entire species. It drives evolution. It teaches survival. It's a language your worlds forgot to speak." Zaltor slammed a clawed hand on the podium. "Enough mysticism. You're dangerous because your kind refuses control." Mira looked directly at him. "And you call that control? You drag sentience away for kneeling wrong, then ask why your shadows don't return." He took a step forward before catching himself. The silence that followed was colder than any vacuum. Lura Sen broke it. "Human, do you claim the missing personnel acted of their own consequence? That their disappearance was metaphysical?" "No," Mira said simply. "It was cause and effect." Lura Sen leaned closer. "Meaning? When something born in peace provokes something born in survival, the laws of nature adjust. You evolved on calm worlds. We didn't. Your biology expects safety. Ours expects resistance. That difference isn't mystical. It's math." Zaltor's throat vibrated with restrained anger. "You murdered them." "I reflected them," Mira said. "They entered that cell believing they were above fear. Now their shadows remember what they forgot." Karen, standing in the shadows of the tribunal, whispered to Zaltor, "The readings again." "Sir." "The resonance fields are climbing." Lura Sen glanced around. "Explain." Karen hesitated. "Her emotional state alters the surrounding electromagnetic spectrum. It's not weaponized, it's reactive. When threatened, the air density shifts by measurable degrees. The phenomenon aligns with the pattern recorded at the time of the anomaly." Mira folded her hands. "We adapt faster than your instruments can define. That's what being human means," Zaltor barked. "You're implying superiority." She smiled faintly. "I'm implying persistence." Lura Sen raised a hand. "Enough. The council will deliberate. Remove her to Observation Chamber 1. The guards moved, surrounding Mira again. But the moment they reached for her arms, the lights flickered. A hum filled the hall, deep, resonant, almost like a pulse beneath the floor. Then the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the tribunal. Gasps echoed, claws scraped metal, weapons charged. Someone shouted for backup. Then, quiet. A single, faint illumination returned, coming not from the ceiling but from Mira herself. A soft gold radiance outlined her shape. Around her, the shadows of the guards wavered, then detached, elongating across the floor like smoke rising in reverse. One by one, the shadows pulled free, sliding toward the walls. They merged, forming shifting patterns like storm clouds before lightning strikes. Zaltor's voice trembled. "What are you doing?" "Nothing," Mira said. "Just showing you what you refuse to see." The envoys froze. Around them, every light source dimmed to a dull glow. Reflections vanished from the polished floor. No one's shadow remained. Only mirrors stretched long and clear beneath her feet. "Where are they?" Lurasine whispered. "Every shadow is memory," Mira said softly. "They show what your light hides. You called Earth a death world because you feared its honesty. But there's no magic here, only consequence. You tried to erase us from your order. The universe corrected that imbalance." Zaltor stumbled back, his breathing uneven. "You're a monster," Mira met his gaze. "No, just human. Monsters are what happen when beings like you mistake fear for control." A tremor shook the chamber. The station's external alarms triggered, lights flashing crimson through the few still operational panels. Power readings spiked across every system. Karen's crystalline form vibrated. "Sir, the shadows. They're moving through the circuits. They're everywhere." Zaltor shouted, "Contain it!" "Contain what?" Mira asked. "A reflection? A consequence? You can't lock away what you don't understand." The hum reached a crescendo and then stopped. The lights returned to full brightness. Everything looked normal again, except the tribunal chamber was empty. Every envoy, every guard, every witness, gone. Only Zaltor remained, trembling in the silence. Across the floor stretched one shadow, his own, burned darker than the rest. Mira stood in front of him, calm as ever. "What did you do?" He whispered. "Nothing new," she said. "We endured." He stared at her. "You could end us all." Her expression softened. "If I wanted to, I wouldn't be talking." Zaltor swallowed hard. "Then what do you want?" "For you to remember," she said, "that humans don't need your permission to exist. You thought fear was weakness. It isn't. It's awareness sharpened into will." He looked down. His shadow trembled slightly as though trying to detach from him. Mira turned toward the exit. "I'll be leaving now." He didn't stop her. Couldn't. As the door slid open, she paused. The light from the corridor spilled across the floor, swallowing the tribunal's darkness. "You called us Deathworlders," she said quietly. "You were right. Our world tried to kill us every day. So we learned not to die quietly." She stepped out. The corridor lights flickered once, then steadied. The Academy's systems returned to normal. No one could explain what had happened. Not the engineers, not the council ships that arrived later. All they found were records filled with static and a line of text written in an unregistered hand across the tribunal logs. "Fear reflects." Zaltor stood alone in the emptied hall long after she'd gone. He looked down at his feet and saw no shadow, only light. The Galactic Academy never officially reported the Vora 9 incident. The tribunal chamber was sealed, the surveillance records erased, and every communication log purged. But silence has a strange gravity. It draws attention faster than any scream. Within days, whispers rippled through the fleets and colonies. Some said the Deathworld Girl had vanished into the void. Others swore she walked freely through the outer decks, unescorted, unchallenged, unafraid. Zaltor hadn't slept since that day. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the light fade from the chamber and the shadows sliding across the floor like liquid thought. His once polished scales had dulled, his posture slackened. He was no longer the proud instructor of the Alliance's elite academy. He was the last witness to something the galaxy refused to name. He stood alone in his quarters, staring at the mirror. His reflection looked normal until he moved. Then, for a fraction of a second, it lagged behind, as though light itself had learned hesitation. He turned away. "You're losing reason," he muttered to himself, but the reflection whispered, "Am I?" The voice was human, calm, measured. Mira's Zaltor stumbled back, claws scraping against the metal floor. "No," he hissed. "You're gone." The reflection smiled faintly. "I told you, fear reflects." He smashed the mirror with his tail. The shards scattered, yet the sound didn't echo. Instead, the silence afterward stretched long and alive, like breath withheld by the entire station. Across the academy, Cadet Karen stood before the main reactor bay, observing the containment field. The energy core pulsed in slow rhythm, stable yet watching. Since the incident, the readings had changed. The core now resonated at a frequency identical to human neural patterns. Karen ran diagnostics for the 20th time. Every result came back clean, yet the graphs curved like a heartbeat. "Impossible," they murmured. Machines don't adapt. Behind them, a soft voice replied, "Neither do humans, until they have to." Karen turned. Mira stood there, barefoot as before, wearing a standard cadet uniform without insignia. No one had seen her enter. "How did you—" "The same way light travels," she said. "Through everything." Karen's crystalline body flickered nervously. "They'll come for you. The council declared you missing in containment." "I know," Mira said, studying the reactor's glow. "They can't comprehend something they can't measure." Karen hesitated. "Did you kill them?" "The envoys?" Her eyes remained fixed on the pulsing light. "No. They dissolved into what they were made of, assumptions. Every mind collapses when it meets its reflection unprepared." Karen's voice softened. "And the guards?" Mira finally turned to face them. "They met themselves. That's not death. That's recognition." Karen shivered, faint harmonic vibrations rippling across their translucent form. "You speak like a phenomenon, not a person." Mira smiled faintly. "Maybe the difference is smaller than you think." Outside, the station orbited Vora 9's clouds in its usual silent precision. Yet every sensor showed irregularities, light distortions, temperature fluctuations, moments where gravity shifted just enough for pens to roll off tables. Technicians blamed faulty calibration. The truth was simpler and stranger. The station was alive in a way it had never been before. In the command deck, Admiral Solis of the Core Fleet reviewed the classified report. Her face was pale beneath the cold blue glow of the console. "A human caused this?" she asked quietly. Zaltor stood rigid before her, his eyes hollow. "Not caused, revealed. Speak clearly, instructor." "She didn't unleash destruction," he said. "She showed us our reflection. And the reflection broke us," Solis exhaled sharply. "You're saying fear?" "Manifested? Yes, it was never her power. It was ours, focused back at us." The Admiral tapped her claws on the table. "Containment?" "She left," Solis looked up sharply. "Left?" Zaltor nodded slowly. The doors opened. Systems obeyed. The Academy didn't stop her. No one dared to. "And you think she'll return?" He hesitated. "She never left, Admiral." "Not really." Later that night, Karen found Zaltor in the observation dome. He stood before the vast expanse of stars, his silhouette faint against the planetary glow below. "She's been seen near the reactor," Karen said quietly. The readings changed again. Zaltor didn't turn. "I know." Karen stepped closer. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" He chuckled, a brittle, hollow sound. "No one could know this. Humanity wasn't supposed to survive their world, let alone ours." "She's not threatening the station." "No," he said softly. "She's testing it." Karen frowned. "Testing what?" "How much fear a civilization can withstand before it admits what it really is." Mira walked through the lower decks, each step leaving faint impressions of warmth in the cold floor panels. The automatic doors opened before her without command. The systems recognized her pattern as part of the station itself now. She paused beside a viewport. Beyond it, the storms of Vora 9 swirled like liquid sapphire. She pressed her hand against the glass. For a brief instant, the storm mirrored her palm. "Human cadet," came a voice behind her. She turned. Zaltor stood there, weary but composed. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "You already tried telling me that," she replied. He approached slowly, cautious but drawn. "Why come back?" "I never left," she said again. "You can't erase reflection, it just waits for light." He studied her face. "You talk like an entity." "You made me one." "No," he said, shaking his head. "I tried to discipline a cadet, not summon a myth." "Then why does the myth still speak through your reflection?" she asked gently. He froze. "You saw? Every time you look into glass, it looks back. You just never asked what it wanted." He swallowed hard. "What do you want, Mira Holt?" Her answer came softly. "Understanding. Not peace, not power. Just the truth, that fear isn't an enemy. It's the oldest teacher in the universe." He looked away, ashamed. "And what have you taught us?" "To listen." She stepped closer, stopping just within reach. "You're afraid of us because you think we survived through violence. But that's not true. We survived through memory. Every scar, every loss, every storm, Earth wrote its lessons in our bones. And what lesson is this? That life isn't measured by comfort. It's measured by endurance. The wind from the ventilation system stirred between them, faint and cold. Mira turned back toward the viewport. You still think I took their shadows? I didn't. They gave them away the moment they decided their light was absolute. Zaltor's voice trembled. And you? I kept mine, she said. Someone has to. A soft alarm interrupted them, a tone so subtle it felt more like thought than sound. Karen's voice came over the intercom. Instructor, power levels are stabilizing. The reactor's resonance has matched human frequency and locked. Whatever she's doing, it's balancing the station. Zaltor looked at Mira. You're merging with the system. No, she said quietly. I'm teaching it how to feel fear and survive it. The viewport brightened. Outside, the storm below split open like a great pupil. For a moment, the entire sky looked back at them. Zaltor whispered, Is this the end? Mira's answer was steady. No, it's awareness. The light engulfed the chamber. Soft, golden, almost human. When it faded, the alarm ceased. The station hummed with calm stability. Every shadow returned to its place. Zaltor stood alone. Mira was gone. He pressed a hand to the viewport. The reflection that stared back wasn't his. It was hers, calm, faintly smiling. You asked what humans are, her voice echoed, soft and distant. We're what happens when fear learns to hope. The reflection blinked once, then vanished. Zaltor sank to his knees, the silence around him heavy but alive. For the first time in his life, he understood what humans meant by reverence. Above the blue storms of Vora 9, the Academy drifted quietly, its systems balanced, its lights steady, and somewhere within the endless hum of metal and energy, a heartbeat echoed, steady and human.